So what we come up to now is the community meeting, which I believe Betty Burke hopefully is in the room to come and lead that. Is Betty here? All right, well, so I will give Betty a second to arrive at the podium, but the basically what we're going to talk about now is some updates from the Executive Director, Betty Burke, who has entered the room, yes, and the community meeting where we will hear from the Board of Directors candidates, talk about the election process, the various other committees that are getting selected new members today. And here we have Michael Smith, the Board of Directors, current Board of Directors chair, for about 45 more minutes. No, he's the current Board of Directors chair and will address us now.
Can we have all the candidates come up to the front, please? So hello, everyone. I'm Mike Smith. I'm the president, chair of the board of directors, termed out this time, so this is my last hurrah here to help us elect a new board, which elections are now open through Wednesday. You do have to be a member to vote, and so if you're not a member and you do want to vote, you can, in fact, become a member up until, I think, Wednesday morning. So if you go to the website, go to the membership location, you can actually sign up, and in which case you can then vote. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go through and have a brief 3-minute kind of introduction from each of the candidates. And then my hope is that people in the community will actually ask them questions about kind of the things that are important to you around NANOG. And then I also have some questions in case we've got some downtime. So we'll see how that goes. And we'll just go in alphabetical order. So Will Charnock is first. Will? You can actually come to the front if you want.
I'm going to be reading, which I hate to do, but I wrote a small little speech. So this is a little bit about myself, a little past, present, future kind of thing. Just going to take a few minutes to talk about my experience with the NANOG community. My first NANOG was NANOG 17, which I believe was in Montreal. I was a young engineer. My boss asked me to go. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But I walked away from that meeting with kind of for the first time in my life, a feeling that I was in the right job and in the right industry, despite all the nonsense that was going on at those meetings. But I spent a lot of time after that sitting in tutorial sessions, learning new ways to design things like BGP policy, implement MPLS, skills that served me well in my career and have paid dividends over the years. So looking into the present now, often I find myself wondering, what's the value of coming to these things now? Having been a seasoned veteran of many of these events, and a few years back, I sent some of my engineers for the first time, and afterwards I talked to them and asked them, did you get anything out of this meeting? And they did, all of them. Every one of them told me that they learned valuable new things. So I think it is relevant, and it makes me feel good, and it's encouraging. And so looking ahead, I ask myself, how do we stay relevant? I ask myself this all the time, obviously, about myself as well as this community. But as a hiring manager, I find it increasingly harder and harder to find good, talented people. And I worry a lot about that. I ask all the time, are we doing enough as a community to foster a new generation of engineers, to bring them the skills and knowledge that they need? Are we addressing the issues that impact not just the community as a whole, but the industries that we work in? There's a lot going on out there that needs to be addressed. And what can we as a community do, and how can we assert ourselves? And is there more that we need to be doing? So anyway, these are the questions and issues that I'd like to help address as a member of the NANOG board. So If you'll vote for me, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Next up, we have Greg Dendy.
Speak up. Speak up. Everyone needs to speak up.
Great, thanks, Mike, and congratulations on your term.
Oh, thanks.
So I'm Greg Dendy. You've probably seen me up here the last few years. I've been part of the NANOG community for over 10 years. I've been spent the last 4 on the program committee, 3 of those in chair, vice chair roles. It's been really, really encouraging to see the way this group has grown. I think the numbers hit a little over 200 per year, per conference average, more than we had 4 years ago. To me, the most important part of NANOG is the community. You're probably going to hear that from a lot of folks because that's why a lot of us are here. A lot of us came here as entry-level engineers, and our careers have grown, the businesses we work for have grown, and we've even started new friendships here. I've met people here that will most likely be lifelong friends. To me, that's really the most important part of this. We have engineers coming from all over the world, operators coming from all corners of the internet to these conferences, and that's how this community is built. The size, though, has brought in some new challenges. Clearly, as you mill around some of the rooms, some of the side rooms, some of the discussion areas, it's getting a little crowded. The more people that are attending, it brings more value, but it also gets a little bit harder to connect with the folks you want to connect with. We also see the conference management getting a little less community driven. We're bringing in more professional management for the conference. This is a good thing. It enables us to have more people here, but we also need to work to keep the ties with the community as we grow. And we're on the edge of how to grow NANOG. We're clearly starting to outgrow some of the smaller conference hotel spaces. We're going to have to start deciding, do we want to stick to a smaller set of very large cities? Do we want to start getting into convention spaces? If we're going to get to 1,000 plus, which we may well in a year or two, these are some things we're going to need to figure out while we also maintain the community aspect of this place. We need to keep bringing in new network engineers. I too am a hiring manager, and this is a problem finding qualified candidates. And eventually, I'm going to want to retire, probably with some of these other folks here are going to want to eventually get to our tropical islands, and we need to know that the internet's going to work from that tropical island. Yeah. So we need to keep fostering our outreach programs, whether it's the universities, colleges, the government, even the military. Anywhere where network operators are starting out now, we need to be reaching out to them and bring them in here. So I'd like to spend a board term or two working on this. Let us grow into the future. How do we accommodate more people and keep this as a valuable experience for all of us? Thank you very much.
And next up, we have Steve Feldman.
Hey everyone, I'm Steve Feldman. You probably figured out by now who I am. I've been around for a while. My first NANOG meeting was #1 way back in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I've been to most of them since then. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. What I will talk about is the last 4 years. We made the decision to split off and become an independent, a nonprofit. In hindsight, I think that was the best thing we ever did. Just looking at the number of people here and the success we've had, it's been truly gratifying. The success that we've had has helped increase our size of our bank account, which is great. It means that we have a nice, healthy reserve. It also means that we have the money to carefully expand what we do in keeping with our educational mission. We very carefully incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit, which means that we have an educational mission. Our job is not to pat each other on the back, but to go out and educate the network engineers and ourselves and the next generation out there so that Greg and Will and everyone else can hire people. To do that, we need the funding, which we have. We need more structure around educational offerings, which is what I think one of the 2 major things the board needs to be working on over the next couple of years. The other major thing, I think, is to do some optimization of our back office business systems to accommodate all of this. Greg alluded to this. We're hiring more professional staff. I think that's going to continue over the next couple of years, and we need to make sure it's well organized. So if you reelect me to the board, that's at least in part what I will be working on for the next few years. Thank you.
And Donnie Roisman. There you are, Donnie. Did I say, oh. Sorry, the alphabet is hard. Dan Golding.
The alphabet grows tricky by 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Hey, how's everyone doing today? Ooh, oh, all right, we're really excited today. So everyone, thanks for coming to NANOG. Really appreciate it. My name is Dan Golding. I've been a member of the NANOG Board of Directors for the past 2 years, seeking re-election for another term. In terms of the things that I think are important, is there are some things that people don't see about NANOG that we're working to make better. We're working to empower our professional staff, such as our executive director and our newly hired program director, to make these conferences and the other programs that NANOG does better and better. We're trying to expand. We've added the educational program. We've added NANOG on the road, which is reaching more and more people, and that's really part of our mission. We're financially stable after 4 years, and so we can now afford not only to have some of these additional programs, but even to make some mistakes. We're at the point where we can reach out to more and more university students from some of the telecom programs, some of the computer science programs, and establish a better pipeline of folks. It's not enough for us to do educational programs. Although the educational programs we do are very important, it's vital for us to present backbone and internet network engineering as a valid career for folks coming out of college. Because when you talk to the kids in college, what's hot? Writing apps are hot. Mobile is hot. There are things that are perceived as hot. What we do is a little more plumbing, but it's an interesting, fulfilling career that a lot of us have really enjoyed, that's vital for the success of the internet. And right now, I think part of what we need to do that's very important is to reach out, find those university programs that can become feeders, not just feeders to NANOG, but feeders to all of us as we're hiring junior staff, to help us continue to professionalize, to bring in the next generation of network engineers, to feed into the NANOG educational programs, and to become fully developed network engineers. At the same time, one thing that I do think is important is to represent the NANOG attendee and the NANOG speaker, the folks who are creating this content on the board. Sometimes those folks tend to get forgotten a little bit. Personally, I'm a prolific NANOG speaker, perhaps too much. And so I think it's important that we recognize and represent the folks who create the content, which is why we come to conferences like this, at least in part. In conclusion, I just want to say, I'd like to thank the community for the opportunity. 15 years ago, I came to my first NANOG. Brandon Ross, who's in the audience, dragged me to my first one, and I discovered that this was a pretty good career to be in. So thank you very much.
And now Donnie Roisman.
Thank you very much. My name is Donnie Roisman. I currently run the network operations team over at SoftLayer, which is now an IBM company. And I've worked in a boutique small network engineering firm. I've worked for quite a few large content providers as well, large and small. And through that process, I've learned how to operate efficiently when I'm in a group of very smart people that all have different priorities and interests and conflicting priorities sometimes. So I think that level of experience really helped me operate on the board of directors and really help make a positive difference. I'm surrounded by some pretty strong candidates here. Actually, I was a little bit intimidated when I saw the list go up on the ballot. So these are some wonderful people. I've worked with some of them directly before, or on the program committee. So I think you have a really strong list of folks to choose from. I've been away from NANOG for about a year. Spent the last year really focusing on some of my daytime job responsibilities. There's a gnat here, sorry. And I missed a lot. I think it was the first time that I had not attended NANOG for one of the 3 meetings in ever since I started a little over 10, 12 years ago. So I'm really glad to be back. I was a student of NANOG early on, much like most of my fellow folks here, and I also learned a lot. And I believe that we should definitely be bringing in new blood, young blood, whenever possible. In fact, I try to bring at least one person from my employers who hasn't been to a NANOG every session. So, and I'm glad that my employers allowed me to do that. I think that's been very good. I've had good feedback from them as well. I liked when I came in here, when I came to NANOG initially, the number of people I could just walk up to and get a question, get an answer for a really complex question. Otherwise, I couldn't find an answer to. I found the people here are very forthcoming with information, and I want to keep that going. I'm also an active ARIN member, so I do attend at least every October the joint NANOG ARIN conferences, and there are some places where we intersect very nicely, and I really look forward to being able to help the NANOG and ARIN communities join together on some of the common interests. And just one example I wanted to mention, when I was on the program committee, I like to find challenging problems and just sink my teeth in and get them solved. I'm definitely not going to take all the credit, but I think I deserve a little credit for some of the presentation systems you guys have seen here at NANOG that have been improved over the past few years. That was something that we've been complaining about and griping about, and I said, you know what, forget it, I'm just going to jump in. I'll spend 1 or 2 whole conferences just focusing on this with my fellow program committee members. I think we made a huge difference to the quality of the actual technical presentation you're seeing. So those are the kind of things that I'm interested in doing. If I'll see a problem while on the board, I'm happy to dive in with both feet and just tackle it until it's solved. And once again, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
So at this point, I'd like to open it up for questions from anyone in the audience. This is not specifically related to members. Anybody who has any questions, you can direct them to everybody, to individuals around any points that were made. The microphone should be open if anybody wants to step up and say hello. Or I can. Oh, good. Hi, Michael.
Hello, I'm Michael Sinatra, ESNet and a NANOG member. First of all, Donnie, if you ever want to come back to the back table, you are always welcome back there. So that's not my question, though. One of the things that I was talking about at the newcomers lunch today was that we have a lot of people who not only come from a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different places. Some are students and some are low-level engineers and high-level engineers and all different sorts of people, but they come here for different reasons. So what they're coming to is sometimes different. We talk a lot about the networking side of it and the ability to go to the socials and make deals and do stuff like that. But a lot of people come for the content, and a lot of people come to learn something. And so we have already a diversity of why people come to NANOG and why they're here. So I kind of want to throw out a question to the candidates, which is, how would you continue to nurture that diversity, allow NANOG to be multiple things to multiple people without going too far, without being all things to all people? How do we reach out to a maximum audience without overdoing it?
Oh, technology, yay. So one of the things that I like about NANOG, and I've always liked about NANOG, is the fact that we're not beholden to sponsors, per se. It's more of a technology conference. And I think that that's what's kept me coming back over the years, and I think that's going to keep people coming back. And I think people get different things out of this depending on where they're at in their particular careers. So I think as long as we continue to bring good content, the program committee continues to do a good job, people are going to continue to come back. And as the industry evolves and changes, we just have to stay on top of that. I don't know what else we can do as a community. So.
I've discovered, after coming to so many of these, that one of the most important parts of any NANOG meeting is the hotel bar. And I'm not being facetious about that. There's a lot that happens in the hotel bar or in the seating areas outside the plenary room or little corners of the hotel where people can have impromptu meetings, informal discussions, whatever. My concern is that as we grow, we need to make sure to maintain that feeling and expand on it so that people don't feel it becomes too big and impersonal. Other than that, I agree with everything I've heard so far.
So Michael, you specifically asked about content, and I think content is really important. One of the differences in the NANOG content over the past couple of years is we've moved to more optionality. You know, way back in the day, there was a single plenary. Everyone went to the plenary. There might have been one BOF session, but you kind of stayed and, you know, went heads down when something wasn't particularly interesting to you. We have a lot more tracks. We have a lot more BOFs. You know, I think one of the things you have to do as a board member is not just to lead or organize, but actually to create content that's interesting. That's why Marty Hannigan and I created the data center track, which we ran successfully for the last 3 NANOGs. We're taking a break this time to come up with some new content. But I think doing stuff like that that pushes the boundaries a half step. Like, in other words, we can't go and do crazy stuff, like stuff that isn't applicable to NANOG. But we can find adjacencies, interesting stuff, mobile, wireless, data centers, et cetera, stuff that is close enough to be interesting and to pull it in and to make NANOG a little more inclusive. I think that's the way to go. And I think continuing to recruit folks who can create that content is really, really important.
I think it was a good question, Michael. I heard it as what do we do to not dilute the content or the value of NANOG, so we're not trying to be everything to everyone. I think one thing that's really important is our survey feedback. We've been doing the surveys for quite a while, and we even go out of our way to find sponsors for giveaways to encourage people. And I know when I was in the program committee, one of our tasks was pimp the survey, pimp the survey, pimp the survey, and we get a lot out of that. And I think not only looking at what we get in the survey, but also as Steve said, I think the board should actually, and the program committee, I mean, we do, when we're on the program, we walk around, we talk to people, we ask people, what did you like about this NANOG? What did you wish you saw? What do you like about the last one? And I just think keeping in mind that the NANOG is going to morph and maybe be a little dynamic in what we focus on this year versus last year, if it's IPv4 depletion or if it's, you know, FCC net neutrality or whatever comes up, we just need to be in tune to that. And I think keeping people that are active in the industry on the program and board is important, and really getting feedback from the NANOG attendees so we can make sure to tune the next meeting and the subsequent meeting. I would say that's the answer.
Yeah, I think Michael really hit on one of our key growth issues right here. As we get larger and larger, we're going to be challenged to keep this community together. We need to continue to provide this forum for the content. We need to keep up with the tutorials, anything we can to keep the socials and the hallway conversations going. This is the challenge we're facing now. If we have to move into much larger facilities in order to hold everybody, will we have the same opportunities for the socializing, the hallway conversations that keep us together? And this is something I want to work on the board. Thanks.
Do we have anyone else from the community like to come up? There we go.
Dan McGorian, Johns Hopkins, APL. So several people, you know, brought up the issue of new blood. How does NANOG play a role in encouraging new people into the community? If you look around, you'll see that an awful lot of this membership is like 40 plus, and probably quite a lot of it is 50 plus. Part of the problem is that, you know, network plumbing is very unsexy these days. And, you know, so trying to get, you know, younger folks to get into that when they'd rather become a 10%er in some over-the-net company, you know, is kind of a tough one. It's just, you know, it's just not a very hot area these days. And so, you know, it's just sort of everybody assumes that somebody else is going to do it, right? And so somebody ends up getting stuck with that somewhere. So how would NANOG actually encourage that, not just keep up its membership, but sort of encouraging younger people to get into it?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right, another good one. I'll respectfully disagree a little bit that 100 gig transport and edge peering is damn sexy, I think. But you're right, we do need to keep folks interested in this. It seems really easy to just crouch in your dorm room or apartment, churn out a few apps, and that's your new business. But none of those are going to work without the internet. So the way we do bring folks into this community is the way we flavor this industry is going to impact that. We need to be the ones doing the outreach.
So many of my networking staff have found their way into my network operations center, network engineering department accidentally. Absolutely, they started one thing and they said, "Oh, this is kind of interesting." I think the way we foster that is we should encourage the old timers, us old timers, to individually seek out talent, either in our companies, in our communities, in our sometimes, like a child of a friend is coming out of high school and mentions an interest. I think it's up to all of us to help find the next generation, just on a personal level and a professional level, within your companies and your own personal social circles. And I think we can encourage this large group of 670 some people who are here today to start doing that. 750, I'm way off, and that was a membership number, you're right. 750 people here to do that. But I think also NANOG can start showing up to career fairs, college tech fairs, high school tech fairs and stuff like that. There are plenty of high schools around the country that have CCNA type of programs, and I think NANOG should try and find a way to reach out to some of those and maybe send representatives out that are local within their geo-region, so it's just a quick drive down to this school or that school. I think we should encourage that.
So I think there's two ways to go about this. One way is the personal approach, and like Donnie has a protege here who I see in the audience, and I asked two young people, young being in the 20s, since we're kind of all doddering up here, Henry Hedges and Noah Leaf, to come here and check out what we do as network engineers. I think that's really important, and I think everyone who's a NANOG member should make an effort to recruit people, and we should make sure our fee structure and our program is structured in such a way to allow us to do that, to invite folks to be part of the program one way or the other. The other thing that's important, and this is a change for NANOG, and this is something I haven't really floated that much to the board, is we incorporated as an educational organization for nonprofit status. One of the things that I keep coming back to is maybe we should shift that a little bit with the IRS and become as much of a professional association, which can still be a nonprofit as much as a educational institution. Network engineering is the only kind of engineering in the US that doesn't have an overarching professional association. When I graduated from college, I joined the ASME because a lot of people here joined the IEEE because that's what you did. You got introduced to people, it was social, there was training, but for network engineers, there's none of that. So I think that's something we need to explore, to have a more structured way for people to get into this industry.
So I have a 24-year-old son. When he was in college, he decided to be a computer science major. I thought was great. I asked him what he wanted to specialize in, and his answer was anything except networks. So, yeah. But didn't do a very good job there, I guess. We have a program, I don't know if you've heard much about it. Dave Temkin did a lot of work to put this together, where we're actually doing some specific outreach down to universities, working with some college professors to try to get people into our programs. I think that's a great first step. The other thing I think we need to do is continue what Donnie was talking about, which is reaching into our own organizations, into corporate IT in general, I think, and try to get the networking people there interested in what we're doing. A lot of it, even in the corporate environment, is applicable to, or what we're doing is applicable to them. So there's work that can be done there. We have some work to do in the next few months to figure out how to market our education program better, and that certainly is an aspect of it. That's one of the main paths I see, along with the NANOG on the road, is how to bring new people into the organization, and so that the average hair isn't gray like mine.
You can just shave it off. That solves that problem. I agree with much of what's been said up here, but one of the things that I don't think we emphasize enough as a community is that internet plumbing may not seem sexy, but none of the really sexy things out there can exist without us. We build all of the infrastructure that drives all of these really cool applications. And I think that's pretty cool, frankly. And I don't think that we go out and shamelessly self-promote ourselves enough, and the work that we've done to enable the success of platforms out there like Google and Facebook and name a hot web property. Those sites don't exist without the work that we do, and I don't think we get that message out enough. And I think that's one other way that we could go out and sell this profession to young people or to people looking to transition into new professions, is that, hey, you know, the work we do is important, it's interesting, it's continuously evolving, and yeah, 100 gig Ethernet's pretty damn sexy, so.
Good afternoon, John Callahan, Windstream. My second NANOG. My question is, have you considered taking a look at some of the educational institutions in the hosting cities and perhaps opening a track for both high school or community colleges where they could come in and have a number of seats in attendance or perhaps a training session? I'm too impassionate about education, and I'm wondering if that might be a path that you could bring in some new blood into the organization.
I think it's a good idea, and I think with the NANOG on the Road initiatives and other things that are going on, they've done some of that. But again, not being privy to what's been discussed on the board, I can't comment on what's been considered, but I think it's a great idea. So.
We do actually have a policy now of student admission. I don't remember the exact details, but I think it's any four-year college student who can prove that they're enrolled gets in for $100. I might be off on the details, but that's the basic idea of it. I don't think we do a very good job of promoting that, and that's something we could certainly do a much better job of. And if we wanted to extend it down to high school, maybe that's worth considering as well. But I certainly agree that more regular participation from the local educational institutions is definitely a good idea and something we should work to improve.
So one of the things we actually did for this NANOG is we actually reached out to all of the local educational institutions. A lot of the DC area universities, the ones with telecom programs, computer science programs, UMBC here around Baltimore. You know, with high school, it's something we've looked at doing and talked about doing, but there's significant liability issues with having folks under 18 running around NANOG with open bars at events, to be honest. And one of the things you have to do is on a board is to be the person who says, well, liability, blah, 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 insurance, blah, blah. It's the boring, unpleasant stuff, but that's ideas which are good, and then sort of responsibility on the other hand. Our biggest problem isn't good content, and it's not that the price structure isn't right. Our biggest problem is we haven't gotten the word out in an organized way with utilizing modern marketing techniques. So we talk about the educational things we're doing within the same circle. And one of the things I would like to do is to break that a little bit and to actually go and use sort of modern marketing techniques. I hear there's these things called AdWords. There's all kinds of ways to promote stuff. And I think we should be much more aggressive about promoting NANOG and its educational offerings and to get it out there. And also, someone dropped their nice new phone right there on the floor.
So. It's okay, it's a Windows phone, so it's probably too
Oh.
I would so fire you if I can't fire me anymore. So I think it's an interesting idea to expand our educational outreach. One of the things about going into a high school or college or offering credits is we have to have a really strong curriculum, right? A lot of what our educational series looks like now is we find an individual, bring up a tutorial and whatnot. We don't necessarily have a very firm curriculum. So I'm interested in developing a curriculum, developing the actual trainers to teach. I think that's a neat idea. If it fits within our budget lines or within our charters, I think that would be wonderful.
Hi.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can keep doing. The new pilot program that the current board has started to reach out to particular colleges and programs is a great start. I think it's going to be successful as a pilot program and something that needs to expand further. This is something we can actually collect metrics on, right? We can start tracking how many attendees under the age of 25 do we get, and we want to see that number grow and grow. That's got to be one of our goals here.
Hi, Chris Woodfield. I'm on Twitter. So just following up on the conversation, the comments that networking isn't sexy anymore, and that people would rather do websites than infrastructure. It is true that I think a good part of that is, like, I guess over the last 10 years or so, is the rise of the cloud services, where 10 years ago, a small to medium-sized business would need someone to set up their network. They'd get a couple cabinets in Equinix or something, but they'd need their own hardware. Those days are pretty much gone, and there does seem to there seems to be a sense that the network people only work for large companies anymore, and there's no room left for the hackers or the cowboys that we all were 10 to 15 years ago when the internet was a new thing. So I'm interested to seeing if, how can that be is that true or not? It doesn't seem like it is, so if there's a perception out there, how do we break that?
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that perception. I see people change jobs all the time, and sure, they often go to a very large web-scale company, but oftentimes they're at a small startup, or they're at some company I've never heard of before. Or maybe it's a startup that just got funded. And so I think there are a lot of new opportunities out there.
Yeah, I personally don't agree with it, but it seems that people do. There are a lot of people, the younger people, running around with that idea in their heads. And
right, so the service we need to start pushing is infrastructure as infrastructure, not as a service. And I think this is one of the right places to do that. We're going to keep pushing that agenda.
Yeah, I agree. Lots of things are moving to cloud, but someone has to run the cloud, and as soon as you move your stuff off premise, all of a sudden you have the need for gobs and gobs of bandwidth to actually access the cloud. So I think us plumbers are still extremely necessary, probably just about exactly where we were. Maybe the server admins are doing a job a little bit differently than they would have been, but the network becomes even more and more critical when you're moving to cloud, and the challenge is, as you said, get the word out. I think we've probably answered how to get the word out pretty effectively here.
I think the issue isn't whether network engineers are vital. I think they are, and I think, as Donnie said, they're more so than they were because so much has moved into the cloud and off the on-premise data center. The issue instead is one of perception, and it's a combination with the fact that our institutions of higher learning have not joined us. If you go to a CS program at a major university, they are teaching development still. Maybe they're teaching a little more distributed development than they used to, but there's still, how many North American undergraduate network engineering programs are there? I'll cheat and say there's 0. That's a problem, and I think it's a difficult problem. I think we're going to need more network engineers and not fewer network engineers, and more importantly, we need better ones, because the folks at those enterprises are not always so great. And that causes problems when they're trying to get into the cloud. I think one of the things we need to do as an organization is figure out a way to not only get kids from college to come here and learn about networking, but to reach out to maybe a select group of colleges and universities and say, we'd like you to have a network engineering major, and this is what it should look like.
On top of that, I think also reaching out to these enterprises that are hiring network engineers so they can talk to the cloud is also something that can help. If we can get them to present here and explain what they're doing and why it's not just a simple problem of plugging in an Ethernet port, I think that could help with the perception quite a bit. We certainly have a lot of representation from the large cloud companies who talk about how they do everything at massive scale. That's great, but we need to see the other end of the spectrum as well.
Yeah, having worked for 11 years for a cloud company, I think my perspective is a little aligned with these guys for the most part, but cloud do not scale infinitely. There's an inflection point where the economics of insourcing are better than the economics of outsourcing, and there will always be opportunity for network engineers to work at startups as they start and startups as they scale. So I don't see cloud as threatening at all to our profession. I think it enhances our profession.
So let me just break in to say we just have about 5 minutes left, and we'll have a hard stop at 4:30. So
We probably have time for 2 more questions if they're fast, but please do make sure that they're focused on asking questions to the candidates that are specific about issues that they need to think about as candidates for NANOG. And so we'll go right here.
So mine, Christopher Lillian, Stoping Metaswitch. Mine's a little more on the content side, but it touches pretty heavily on this. Somebody just mentioned infrastructure for infrastructure. A lot of the things that we've been doing before purely in the network layer are moving into other parts of the infrastructure. Network or cloud, storage, compute fabrics, et cetera, which may include networking as part of it. If I look across the spectrum at other organizations out there, I can go to OpenStack, I can hear all sorts of things about how to make OpenStack work. There's no really place I can go and listen to people's experience of running OpenStack versus CloudStack versus Docker versus, what are the best practices? One of the things I've gotten out of NANOG over a very long period of time is best practices on networking. If we start thinking about the infrastructure's not just the pipes, it's a little bit larger than that now. Is NANOG maybe a place to start having conversations about the infrastructure as an infrastructure in this brave new world that we've probably been through a couple times already? But is that maybe a place where we might broaden it a bit and might broaden the attendees a bit and the interest area a bit?
Yes. I think there's a convergence of software and networking hardware occurring. It's been going on for years. It's more pronounced now. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a potential opportunity there, both from a content and a participation standpoint.
I agree wholeheartedly. I see that in my day job, where far too often we have the sysadmins setting up this wonderful new VM stack thingy and forget to tell us about it, the network guys, and then they kind of figure out why it doesn't work. So some integration of the two camps, I think, is essential. It's always a network problem, yes.
So on the system side, we've seen a lot of DevOps / systems reliability engineering stuff, where what was a sysadmin is becoming endangered, and now it's a combination of a developer plus or a developer with sysadmin-y kind of skills. I think there's a lot of speculation that network engineering is going to include more development skills or more other skills over the next couple of years. At the same time, I think a lot of the cloud bits and pieces and modules are important. And I think that this is a good opportunity for someone to step forward and say, I'm going to do a cloud track in NANOG. And I think for the folks in this room, you'd be amazed how easy it is to start a new track, how open the PC is to that sort of discussion. And if it's the kind of thing you're interested in, you should talk to the PC chair and just say, hey, I'd like to try just one time to do a cloud track and to recruit some people to talk about Docker containers or OpenStack or some of these other technologies with a network twist. I think you'd be surprised how open they would be to that.
So I'll keep it quick. Yes, definitely yes. And back to Dan's point, nanogpc@nanog.org. Yes. Just go ahead and drop your ideas. You don't even have to waste your time putting in a survey. Just straight to nanogpc@nanog.org, and I think we should make it happen. I love the idea of cloud track. I think it's great.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to disagree with the statement before the question. As we roll more and more to cloud services, that doesn't mean the network goes away. We still need plenty of engineers out there deploying with Cisco and Juniper and Arista and whoever else is creating hardware-wise. There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be deployed. I think I've gone most of today without even hearing the phrase SDN. That might be the first day in about 6 months. And of course, I just blew it for all of you. Sorry about that. But there's still the hardcore need for network engineers. I run a deployment team, and I can hear my leadership talk about how much we need to start coding, but the truth is the hardware's not going to deploy itself because we can script.
And we have time for one more question. It'll be Randy in the back there.
Randy Bush, IIJ. Somehow all those machines in the cloud have to be connected to each other. There's a lot of networking in there. But I would like to ask, and it's very hard to ask this as a male, but what are you, a bunch of males, going to do about seeing that there are some non-males up in front of us a year from now?
Good question, Randy. I would like to see the metrics. I think over the last few years we have seen a growth in both on the female gender side of this organization. In terms of recruiting for PC and leadership, that's been something I've focused a lot on in the PC. We've been trying very hard to recruit more and more female members. I will put the open call out right here. If anyone else we can get to nominate themselves for the PC, that would be great for the community, I believe.
It's a very delicate question you asked, but I think we need diversity in all aspects, be it gender or country of origin or whatnot. I think the two things is, of course, we have to give everybody an opportunity and not rush to judgment. If somebody comes up and has an interest in network, be it a guy or a gal, you should give them your time and talk to them and hear them out. I think at the same time, there are a few, was it I think Net Girls, or a couple groups that you see kind of active in NANOG. And maybe we need to take a slightly more active role in promoting those and make sure that people know about them. So it's not just, oh yeah, you bumped into CJ in the hallway and said, oh, you should come out tonight with us. You know, maybe we should make a point of promoting it.
I think the problem isn't that the board of NANOG is male dominated; it's that our profession is male dominated. And I think we need to figure out ways we can fix that. This is tricky, because if you look at college computer science programs, the kind of folks we'd want to feed into this community, they're male dominated too, if maybe less so than in previous years. I think one of the things that sometimes people don't see, and this is a discussion Greg Dendy and I had probably 2 months ago, is we were literally going through NANOG membership lists to try to find female candidates for the PC. And we try really, really hard to find people who we can give leadership positions to who've earned it in this community. And I think we've got some good candidates for the PC, and we've got an outstanding current female board member. But the biggest thing we need to do is we need to fix this profession and not, maybe worry a little less about elections and a little more about our teams.
I can't really follow that up. I agree with everything Dan just said. I agree with, I think it was Donnie who mentioned that we need diversity in all areas, not just gender. We need representation from different parts of the North American region, maybe different parts of the world, depending on the role. Different aspects of the network engineering profession, different companies, all over.
I know we're on a hard stop, so really quick. I agree. We need more diversity. It's a problem we've been grappling with for years in the industry, as Dan said. And all I can do is encourage when we have a female applicant, she passes all of our screening, we hire her, encourage her to participate in these types of things. And that's really all we can do. This is it's a male-dominated industry. We're trying to change. We've been trying to change that for years. There's a lot of talk going on across the country about this, and we don't pick other people's professions, unfortunately. So all we can do, I guess, is make it sexier, and maybe more people will come work for us. I don't know. So.
Well, I want to thank everyone, including the candidates, for coming up and giving their discussions today, and thank you very much for asking questions of them. Again, voting is open Wednesday until noon, so please do vote. Oh yeah, and remember, you do have to be a member to vote, so if you're not a member, please do sign up for membership. No? Oh. Getting bad information. Never mind. The membership is closed for the voting this time. I apologize. But again, thank you very much. The tracks are starting at 4:30. I'll turn it back over to Tony now.
Okay, folks. Thanks, Mike, and all the candidates. So what's going to happen now, as I mentioned, we're going to go to parallel tracks. We've got in here the security track, which will not be recorded, but it's supposed to be more of a candid discussion about some current security topics in the network. And there's the best current operational practices track that's going to be meeting in the Maryland Suites, which is just out and I think slightly to the left when you exit the doors, across sort of through where the breakfast was and lunch was. So that's what we're doing. So in this room, I'm going to invite the track leaders up. Where are they? I saw them a second ago. Just waiting in the wings. So it's John Kristoff and Krasi Setsanov. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it somewhat right. Okay, he says it's good.